Probing Eye welcomes you back to its continuing series, Bus 5 Minute. I'm your host Prabhjot Singh, and I will talk about East Indians in Canadian politics. Today, we'll dwell upon another interesting area about how East Indians of different origins have progressed well in Canadian politics. Before we do that, remember to click on bell icon to get free and automatic subscription to all latest episodes of Probing Eye as well as Bus 1 Minute. Now, over to Canadian politics. We talked about how Narinder Singh made a remarkable debut in Canadian politics, and since then, how East Indians have dwelt further on their role in mainstream politics in Canada. Today, I am going to talk about some of those politicians who are identified as East Indians, but they were born outside India, maybe in Africa. A lot of Indians have made different countries their homes, and from there they have been moving on to Canada. For example, recently when Justin Trudeau, before he relinquished his office, he made some appointments to the Senate, and one of the beneficiaries was Baltej Singh Dhillon, a guy who was the first one to join Royal Canadian Mounted Police with a turban. And now he has become the second senator after Sabi Marwaha, a banker, to become a senator in Canada. Before Sabi Marwaha and Baltej Dhillon, there have been others who got into Canadian House of Commons with turbans on. But people of different origins, like as I mentioned, Baltej Dhillon, he was born in Malaysia, and then he is now become a senator in Canada. Then there are others. Neena Grewal, for example, she and her husband were the first couple of East Indian origin to sit together in the same House of Commons. Neena Grewal was born in Osaka in Japan. Then Rahim Jaffer, he came from Uganda and represented East Indian community in House of Commons. But the longest serving East Indian of East African origin was Deepak Oberoi. He remained member of Parliament for 7 consecutive terms, though we lost him recently, but he had the longest tenure as a parliamentarian, and originally his family came from Punjab, but Deepak Oberoi was born in Kampala. And in the last government, headed by Justin Trudeau, the Minister for Justice and Attorney General, Arif Virani, though a Gujarati, also was Kampala, Uganda born. And then there are others also who were born outside India and outside Canada, but they made a mark in Canadian politics. As I mentioned, Neena Grewal, she was the first one. She, along with Ruby Dhalla, they were the first 2 women to be elected to House of Commons in 2004. And Neena had the distinction that at that time her husband, Gurmant Grewal, who had moved to Canada from Libya. So he had another distinction, like he also had African connections. So Gurmant and Neena sat together in the same House of Commons, and Ruby Dhalla they were the first, Ruby and Neena were the first women of East Indian descent to sit in House of Commons. Since then, many other women have been members of parliament in Canada, including recently she was the first woman of Asian descent to become Defense Minister of Canada, Anita Anand. In the last Trudeau government, she was also Transport Minister and President of the Treasury Board. There was a phase when a number of women, after Ruby and Neena, they came to Parliament, including Sonia Sidhu, Ruby Sohota, Kamal Khera, Anju Dhillon, and they all did Indian women proud by representing their constituents in the Canadian Parliament. So women had a good progress, so did the men. And now when Canada goes to polls again on April 28th, there are a number of women candidates. Anita Anand initially decided she will not seek a re-election, but then she relented and now she is contesting again. All others, as I mentioned, Sonia Sidhu, Ruby Sohota, she was made a cabinet minister by Justin Trudeau in his last cabinet reshuffle, though she remained a minister only for a short while. She will be contesting again. Anju Dhillon, Kamal Khera, she was also a minister in Justin Trudeau's cabinet. She will be contesting again. Then all other women, Anju Dhillon is contesting again. Anita, as I mentioned, she is contesting again. So the number of women in the coming House of Commons may also witness an increase, as we expect that East Indian community's representation in the 45th House of Commons will go up from where it was in the 44th House. There are also several other distinctions which East Indians enjoyed. Gurbaksh Malli was not only the first one with the turban, as I mentioned, he also made sure that Vaisakhi was celebrated inside House of Commons. In 1999, when the Khalsa celebrated its tercentenary, it was Gurbaksh Malli and his fellow MPs of East Indian region who prevailed upon the government, and Government of Canada issued a special 49-cent commemorative stamp on Khalsa. And for the first time, Guru Granth Sahib was taken inside House of Commons and a smagam was held there. Then Harbans or Harb Dhaliwal, as he is known, he was the first East Indian to become a cabinet minister. He was Minister for Oceans in 1994 or 95. And then there are others like Ujjal Dosanjh, who was the first East Indian to become a premier of a Canadian province. Ujjal was premier of British Columbia at the turn of the century, and he later joined federal politics. He quit New Democratic Party and was inducted into Liberals by the then Prime Minister Paul Martin, and Paul Martin made Ujjal Dosanjh Canadian Minister for Health. Then, as I mentioned, Gurmant and his wife, they were the first ones to sit as a couple in House of Commons. So they have many, many more achievements during their last 75 years journey into Canadian politics. We'll continue talking about them, their progress, and how they progressed from different areas, and how from starting with NDP in British Columbia and Liberals in Ontario, they moved on to Conservatives in British Columbia as well as in Alberta, and then gradually to Ontario. And also how New Democratic Party, which is headed by an East Indian, Jagmeet Singh. Before that, Hardyal Singh Bens, as I mentioned in one of my earlier episodes, headed a party at national level in Canada, though that party didn't make much of inroads into electoral politics. So we'll continue talking about East Indians in Canadian politics. So stay tuned and keep watching Probing Eye and Bas 5 Minute.